recycled plastic grills. Tips for a correct choice. Until the early 90s of the last century, green car parks were made with concrete blocks with openings that allowed the passage of vehicular traffic. At the same time, the formation of a grass scarce on the surface between the concrete wall and the other. At that time a small revolution had already been made, as it had moved from the asphalt parking lot to those with a more green appearance. However, concrete gratings had advantages and disadvantages. In the advantages we can include high resistance to vehicular traffic, durability of the product, resistance to atmospheric agents, different surface shapes, high dimensional stability under the effect of the sun. In the disadvantages we can mention high weight of the single piece, high installation costs, high transportation costs, reduced grass area, high probability of disturbing the grass in summer, reduced drainage surface. At the beginning of the century, lawn access roads made of recycled plastic were imposed on the market, which took away most of the green parking lots, due to some technical advantages that they enjoyed in comparison with the concrete product, and the new regulations that they require a relationship between the constructed surfaces with respect to green and the need to make horizontal areas as drained as possible. The materials that are normally used are of three types: LDPE for non-transportable surfaces, HDPE and PP for manageable surfaces. Speaking of inputs, the HDPE is a material that allows a good elasticity of the product but at the same time a good resistance to compression, bending and torsion. This last element must be carefully considered since the grid must withstand the force that a stationary machine impacts on the article when turning the wheels. It also has excellent resistance to low temperatures, but at the same time less stability under the influence of solar radiation if it is not compensated by mineral charges. The PP compound has good compressive strength and high solar temperatures, but has low resistance to torsion and bending. In addition, the resistance to bending, in addition to the torsion we have seen before, is an element to consider when the substrate does not perform its task of static capacity and coplanarity with respect to the plastic plane. It also has a low resistance to low temperatures with the possibility of collapsing plastic pieces on the ground. The choice of the two materials that have advantages and disadvantages should be made taking into account the seasonality, the latitude of the site, the experience in the installation and the type of vehicular traffic. However, there are corrective recipes to use. Once you have all the design elements that also take into account the cost of the different raw materials between the two families, the type of mold, the machine to print the product, the colors and the additives, protective measures required. Naturally, the correct choice of regenerated raw materials does not exhaust the decisions that must be taken to design and create a good green parking space. We can list below some details to take into account. It is recommended that the shape of the alveolus be honeycomb or circular so that the tensions are distributed evenly. The coupling between one tile and another must take into account the thermal expansion experienced by the product under the sun. In the absence of space between the elements, it is necessary to consider leaving the expansion joints in both directions. The feet in the intrados of the grid should not be less than 3.5 centimeters in length, to allow a proper grip on the ground below. The stratification on which the turf rests must have two inert materials with different granulometry divided by a non-woven drainage fabric. Better if it is in polypropylene with a continuous line in a suitable finishing layer for planting grass. The mechanical leveling when pressing is very important to avoid the fall of the pavement. It would be recommended to equip the area with an automatic irrigation and provide fertilization and restoration of the lost cropland after opening the area.